during that, I went into advisory and consulting, and my first client said, can I pay you in Bitcoin? That was back in 2016. And back then, Bitcoin was $2,000, and it was an all-time high. I thought, okay, let me just take a chance on it, and I've been down the rabbit hole ever since. So I've now been working in the NEM blockchain, and in the last 1 year, had the privilege to travel to 20 cities across the world, literally as a blockchain evangelist. So sharing the gospel, talking about blockchain 100 times to different people in different backgrounds. So in the last 2 weeks, I had the good fortune of going to LA and speak in Caltech and USC, and then to Stanford, and then Starfish Mission, which is a blockchain community hub, and then over here at the Harvard Kennedy School, and here with you all, and then the MIT Bitcoin Club yesterday, and also to attend the Forbes 30 Under 30 event. So I'm the list maker for Asia, and it's in the enterprise technology space, because NEM is a enterprise blockchain, and my role is to continue to help educate and connect people together, especially if any of you would like market access to the Asia Pacific region. So now, back to taking a few steps back to blockchain. Now, how does blockchain work? In a very oversimplified manner, currently today, right now, information is stored online on centralized servers. So whenever you upload something on Facebook or LinkedIn, it goes to a centralized server. And this centralized server keeps everything. Now the problem with a centralized server is that it's vulnerable with hacking. So we've seen Facebook, Sony PlayStation, the Reserve Bank of Bangladesh, all being hit by hacks. In fact, the government of Haiti had its land title office bombed, and all the documents gone, and all the information was gone, right? So centralized servers have been seen to be having problems. And even though people built, cybersecurity experts built a taller firewall, guess what? The hackers are just going to get a taller ladder and climb above the firewall. So in a response to that, what was developed was blockchain technology. So it originated from Satoshi Nakamoto back in 2009 through his Bitcoin white paper. And the idea was to have multiple servers across the world that are interconnected. And this interconnection, what it does is that when you upload the information, it goes to the centralized server. But when you upload the information via the blockchain, it actually uploads every server at the same time through the power of the internet, right? So it's a bit like whenever you type something on Google Docs or Google PowerPoint, it also then uploads it on multiple servers. In the case of the NEM blockchain, there are 500 different servers that are working. And this is what you call a blockchain protocol. Now you've got the Bitcoin protocol, the Ethereum protocol. The NEM protocol is one out of 100 different protocols in the world. Now what happens is that within this server, there is a superhighway. And within the superhighway, there are different applications. So one of the applications, which is the most popular in the world right now, is the cryptocurrency application. Now, what makes cryptocurrency so popular is because it enables someone to transfer value to another person without the middleman. And it's called cryptocurrency because there's the word crypto, and the word cryptographic behind it. And that dates back to, some of you know, the Morse code days. It transfers information in an encrypted way. So what happens is then you're able to transfer cryptocurrency in an encrypted way so that this information is not public as well. Now, besides cryptocurrency, you've got other applications like voting. For example, you can then timestamp information there. The Ukrainian government is using NEM blockchain as a proof of concept for their general elections. You've got areas like supply chain. The Ministry of Agriculture in Japan has announced that they're working the NEM blockchain to store their wild game meat tracking. So that's essentially a Kobe and Wagyu beef on the blockchain. And we also have copyright. So there's a company called copyrightbank.com in Australia that allows content creators to upload their digital works and timestamp it as a legally defensible evidence in the courts of law. So there are courts in China who have accepted this sort of work, and essentially your digital work is uploaded on the blockchain. Currently, right now, you can only register a patent or a trademark with the Intellectual Property Office, but you have to prove your copyright work, your lyrics, your image, the work that you do. So Copyright Bank is one of the examples of an enterprise used for blockchain itself. So we've seen a lot of applications in the blockchain, and the world is getting to it. Just Google Walmart, Musk, IBM, EY, Microsoft, all looking into blockchain, and they've got reports about it. Facebook just announced that they have a head of blockchain, and that person used to be a president at PayPal and used to be the head of product for Facebook Messenger. And if you get someone big to get into from a big company like Facebook, you know that blockchain is going to be big. And it's literally gone from nowhere in 2009 to now here in 2018. So much so that the World Economic Forum says that 10% of the entire world's GDP will be on a blockchain by the year 2025. The crypto markets, even though it's down, Tim Draper, an investment guru, said that the crypto markets, he believes, will be $80 trillion in the next 15 years. Now, obviously, this is a really nascent way of seeing blockchain. It's still very new. And in fact, this dates to the caveman days. What it's done, when we upload information here, it's actually no different than the caveman days where they were inscribing things on a wall, or in Moses when he inscribed the 10 Commandments. This is just essentially an inscription of a record book, and this just makes it now a new revolutionary technology. And the reason it's revolutionary is that when hackers try to hack one of these, you still got these networks here to maintain the servers. So that means that it becomes, in a sort of way, hacker-proof. And the way it's been developed is that it's immutable. So once it's there, it's permanent. You cannot undo, edit, delete, backspace, or remove the digital fingerprint. It's going to be there permanently itself. And it's moved in a chronological order. So when you talk about credit scoring and central banks, imagine a digital US dollar. When a US dollar had moved 1 million hands or 1 billion hands, they can track the genesis of where the dollar came from. Now that's something to really think about, and the ethics behind it as well, the privacy behind it, especially when you've got Europe with GDPR and the right to be forgotten and all that sort of things. We need to learn how to measure the improvement of technology with this itself. Now, that's how the world of blockchain has really shaped things. Now, how does NEM work in all these cases? So NEM is in 40 countries across the world. It developed a cryptocurrency back in March 2015, and by sheer growth of the world of blockchain, that cryptocurrency had gone up 100,000% to become one of the top 20 in the world right now. So if you invested $50 in the NEM blockchain, in the ZEM cryptocurrency back then, you'd receive about 3 million ZEM. At the all-time high in January 11 this year, ZEM was worth US $2. That 3 million would have been worth 6 million US dollars. Right? Today now, NEM is back down as if all the crypto markets is at about 10 cents. But we're seeing a real scale in how the world of cryptocurrency works. But that's just one aspect of it, and I don't really like to focus on cryptocurrency because enterprise adoption is where NEM is heading. Now, with regards to the NEM blockchain, you've got about 500 nodes on the NEM blockchain right now, and it's all basically tracking and uploading server. It's got a throughput. It can go up to, it's been stress tested to 4,000 transactions per second, but we're very comfortable at 2 transactions per second right now, about 60-second block time. And what people need to know about NEM is that developers just need to build a website, a software, or a portal on the internet, and it can be done in any computing language. And to those who are a bit technical here, do what you call an application programming interface, or an API call, JSON RESTful APIs. And you basically do a front door, back door API, and you link both together. So an example of this is if you go on Google right now and you just Google Boston to New York flights, within not minutes but seconds, you'd be able to see the different airlines from United, Delta, the dates, the rates, whether you fly business or not, within a second. And what happens is Google basically pulls APIs from the different airline websites and puts it into their Google Flights machine. Likewise, you put your information here, like Corporate Bank, you upload your script, like an LA filmmaker has put in scripts. You upload your images, the photographer puts in there. I put in my my wedding photo there and put it timestamp on the blockchain. I've got a baby girl due, so I'll maybe put a birth certificate there as well, just out of novelty, right? And essentially what happens is that a link to the API call links it onto the NEM blockchain, and it becomes timestamped on the blockchain. So that's what the NEM blockchain does with its full 500 nodes. So it's very easy to use. Now, how do we compare with other blockchains? Other blockchains, for example, the Ethereum blockchain, you actually don't build it off-chain. This is called off-chain, right? But you actually build it on-chain. So in order to build this on-chain, you actually got to learn a computing language called Solidity, and it takes time to learn. And it basically is a smart contract nature. So meaning that if A, then B. So it becomes on the blockchain and it's immediate and it's fast. Now, so I tell people, if you want to build a rocket launcher or a blockchain-based business to launch you to the moon, build it on Ethereum. If you want to focus on an enterprise use case, use the NEM blockchain because it's easy to use, we quite plug and play and out of the box solution. Now, who else other than NEM does this? Hyperledger, IBM. IBM does it as well with the Linux Foundation. And there are other companies like Wave, Nebula, and so on. But NEM comes in here as one of the protocols. So I always tell people, in choosing blockchains is a bit like dating before you get serious with someone, right? You date first, you find out a bit of the blockchains, and then you choose which one to get into. So we've got a community in 40 countries, 200 different employees and partners, and hundreds of thousands of supporters across the world. So that's a real snapshot on the NEM blockchain itself. Now, I just want to share a few insights before we open up the table for questions. We've seen a world right now where we're so used to capitalism. The Jack Ma's and the Jeff Bezos of the world. Jeff Bezos just had been announced here as $165 billion net worth. Amazon stocks went up 98,000% in the last 21 years of him building it, and you still got millions of people living with less than $1 a day. And that's because of the way the world capitalism works. But it's good that these people are also giving back right now. Jack Ma just retired, he's going to be giving back to society, so that's a good thing. But before capitalism exists, from a philosophical level, it was not capitalism. It was actually farming. It was feudalism. It was the agrarian culture. And then it moved to the age of kings, where there was one man who was literally God and he could slice your head with just a flick, right? And that moved and reduced the kings to the head of state, and then now to capitalism. I believe that within our lifetime, we may potentially see a postmodern new age economic era of capitalism, of involved nature, where we have the principles of decentralization, principles of peer-to-peer, and principles of what the blockchain stands for. So you're all sitting in this room and you're in this very unique space because you could potentially be in a very pivotal change of history right now and where the world moves. And a lot of change makers came from great institutions like MIT, and I'm hoping that all of you can start looking into this as well and help change and shape the way the world works. So that's a very quick summary of blockchain and the world. And as we move to what you call a trustless society, where you can step into a car of a stranger like I just did for Uber, or you can step into an Airbnb or someone you don't know, where I just had, and I shared it with 3 people. One paid me in PayPal, one paid me in cash, one paid me in Ether, right? And this world is going to change. Imagine a world that is trustless, where you can step into every other facets of life, where you involve something without the middleman. So yeah, that's very quickly blockchain and a bit about myself, opening up for questions. Yes.
So when you were explaining about the blockchain, you mentioned that the distribution aspect of that. And later you explained about the immutability, which for me is the most important characteristic of the blockchain.
That's right.
So on the NEM blockchain, you mentioned that there is this 500 nodes.
Yes.
I would like to understand how it works the consensus, because this is the mechanism on the blockchain that enforces the immutability, right?
Yes.
So I would like to understand if those nodes are federated or are independent, how it works.
Okay,
to change the consensus.
It's a great question. So we're going one level deeper right now. So get yourself into a brain massage. There are different consensus mechanisms. The Bitcoin has a consensus mechanism called proof of work, where you set up mining machines to solve complicated algorithms, and then it churns out a Bitcoin for that, and it can also function as a node, right? The consensus mechanism for other protocols is a proof of stake, where you stake your cryptocurrency into a lump, and then it becomes part of the network. Now, NEM uses what you call proof of importance, and it's a combination of proof of stake, which is a minimum amount of ZEM cryptocurrency, and then allowing transactions to occur within your network as you set up a node. So proof of importance in this case is where you can set up a node and you can become a super node by having a minimum of 3 million ZEM cryptocurrency, staking it, set up the software for it, and then start capturing the transactions, and you actually derive a transaction fee. So for every 3 million ZEM that you stake, you actually have about 9,000 ZEM a month banked into your pool as a reward for you as transaction fees for putting in the information. And that act is called the act of harvesting. So we don't believe in mining because it consumes energy, we believe in harvesting. So what NEM does is that it harvests as a proof of importance consensus mechanism. If let's say you want to get involved but you don't have 3 million ZEM, because it costs quite a lot today, even if ZEM at 10 cents, you can pool your ZEM by what you call delegated harvesting. So a minimum of 10,000 ZEM you pool with an existing super node to be able to then receive a reward for your transaction fees as well. So to simplify it even further, proof of importance is a bit like your frequent flyer points. So you collect a certain amount of points, you can redeem it for flights, and the more you fly, the higher status you get, the higher your proof of importance scoring, and that scoring allows you to then maintain your network. And we've got basically 500 nodes that are running itself as a super node to record the transactions on the blockchain. Yeah.
Okay. Just a follow-up question.
Yeah.
You mentioned proof of importance. But it sounds to me that is just proof of stake in the sense that you need to commit this fund, right?
Yeah.
How can you elaborate a bit more on
Okay.
how this?
Okay. So the difference between POI and POS is that you are also being measured for the amount of transactions that go through your system. So the more transactions go through your system, the higher your POI score. So we reward you. We've developed an algorithm that tracks people who transact with each other. So that builds more stickiness into the node. So I used to be in banks, it's all about customer stickiness. You got to have a card, a personal loan, a mortgage and everything. So in order to develop more stickiness with the nodes, we make sure that you're also being engaged for transactions. And we also have an algorithm that goes against what you call sock puppets. People that just transact with each other, hoping to earn transaction fees from each other. So we have a way to stop that as well. Because trust me, I've tried before. It doesn't work. Yeah. Alright, question behind.
Hey, two-part question. Can you talk through how easy it is to create a mosaic? And then can you talk through kind of, has there been any real adoption of tokenizing assets on the blockchain?
Great question. So now within the NEM ecosystem, within the applications, you've got different enterprise use cases. And whenever, let's say, you upload an information on Copyright Bank, you actually have to pay a transaction fee. And the fee is 0.05 XEM, which is part of the cryptocurrency. And you can actually buy the ZEM in 30 different exchanges and 50 more pairings across the world. We are in all the major exchanges, and you can use it to make your transaction. But beyond that, NEM has a number of features as well. And one big feature that we have is called the Mosaic. And to those who are familiar with Ethereum, Mosaic is the equivalent of the ERC20 token. So you can basically develop a sub-token besides the ZEM and actually list that token, and if you want to even do your initial coin offering with that. So the Mosaic is a very powerful token within the NEM ecosystem because of one key function. The Mosaic, right, allows you to put in English words. In fact, you can put in 1,024 characters on a Mosaic whenever you put into the blockchain. So imagine in a supply chain network, for example, with the Ministry of Agriculture, right? Every time a message is being sent saying that it's gone from process 1, 2, 3, it sends out words and says that cow A has left the building, cow A has now been processed, cow A is now being shipped. And that's being done through the Mosaic system. Now, you can actually create a Mosaic within 3 minutes. NEM has simplified this, where you can go to our official website, nem.io/downloads, download the NEM wallet, and you can find for the Create My Mosaic system. And you can create your Mosaic, and you can have then key elements of the Mosaic. So you can have levy, which is how much transaction fee that you want to have. In ZEM is 0.05 ZEM. You can have whether it's transferable, so meaning that can I transfer this to anyone in the world or only to a limited amount of people? And the capping of tokens. How many Mosaics I want to create? Like 9 billion tokens for NEM or 1 million for the Mosaic, and use this. Now, who has used this Mosaic ecosystem? We have a company called LoyalCoin in Philippines. They are the largest loyalty white label solutions provider. They've got 300 clients like 7-Eleven, ExxonMobil, and so on. And they've created a single coin to rule them all. And LoyalCoin did an ICO and raised US $19 million out of Philippines. And they are using the NEM Mosaic. In Indonesia, we've got a coin called Pundi X, and they've got 500,000 customers that use their point of sale system. They raised US $26 million through the NEM Mosaic. They did a combination of Ethereum and NEM, and they are now going around the world where people can now buy cryptocurrency or buy goods and services through their point of sale system. They raised 26 million. And another one more is to get a deeper level is file storage on the blockchain. Now what you see in NEM right now, it doesn't store files. So that makes the blockchain very light. It just stores transaction hashes which represent something as a digital work. But a company called Proxima X had developed a file management solution, and they raised US $35 million to build a system where they've created, through a very complicated way, putting different servers where you can now upload information like certificates, actual copyright digital works on the blockchain itself. So these are some of the practical applications on blockchain using the Mosaic system.
Yeah, so awesome answer, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Just going one step further though, in terms of tokenizing assets, is that being done? Or like tokenizing security?
Yeah, that's right. So within the token ecosystem, for everyone's knowledge as well, there's the idea of this thing called a security token, which is a representation of the token, or a utility token, which is being utilized to do something. So we have companies that are looking at developing security and utility tokens, but it's not announced yet because a lot of people are waiting for regulations, and I think the SEC has said that you need to categorize a security token, and a lot of exchanges and governments in around the world are also doing that right now. So we haven't had any any practical applications that are being developed right now, but we do have companies that are actually working on it right now in developing a security version of it. So for example, there is a company called, I think, Real Block. They're looking at tokenizing a property where you can actually buy a fraction of a particular property itself and own a part of it, and their rental yield and so on and so forth. But all these are still being developed. It's still really early days. Does anyone have thoughts on security token offerings or securities here? Or anyone's working on a project or know of a project that you'd like to share about? No? No, but a lot of people say that security token offerings are going to be a way of the future where you can actually buy a token to represent that business itself and actually not own any ownership in the token, right? I give you a very crazy example out of the world. If Steve Jobs, back in his day, could do an ICO, would he have done it? The answer is actually yes, because he was ousted from his board and he had no control of Apple, and he then did Pixar and did other companies before coming back to Apple. If he did a token and people believed in him, they would have bought a token to represent the future of Apple. And in hindsight, you know where Apple is today, right? Your token value would increase as well. And how does the token value increase? Because of the limited supply of tokens. So for example, if let's say Steve Jobs said, I'm only going to come up with 1 million Apple tokens, and if you like what my business is, you buy the token, right? So if let's say that I hold one Apple token in 1980, when anyone wanted to buy it for $2, I bought it for $1. Someone out there thinks that Apple's going to do well in 2018, they buy it for $2. And then another person like Ben said, okay, I'll buy it for $10 because I think I'm bullish on Apple. And basically, this Apple token exchanges hands multiple times, that the Apple token can be what it is today. Like the case of Bitcoins, it exchanged hands so much that it is now US $20,000. And then after that, people think that Bitcoin has no value, it's gone down to $6,000 to $7,000. But Bitcoin has a limited amount, 16 million right now, and as the mining continues, it gets to 21 million by the year 2040. But that's the whole concept of a capped supply. Yeah. You got a thought on that?
Yeah, I know. I'm just curious on that analogy, in that you're talking about, you're almost treating it like it's a stock, but if you're buying that token in Apple,
yeah,
like what would it be used for? Like, would it get
nothing
paid out?
It's a value. It's just a store of value. Nothing but a store of value. There's no payment, there's no dividend, there's nothing, right? That's the most basic form of tokens right now. In the case of ZEM, you could get paid out by setting up a node and staking it, but as the purest form, it's just a token to represent, it's like a collectible, a collectible to be worth something. Yeah. That's the element of peer-to-peer and decentralization.
Pay for that.
Why would people pay for it? People would pay so much for sneakers and artwork that have no intrinsic value.
But just like a token saying, I own a token that Steve Jobs issued to raise money for the...
Yeah. But
security tokens will be value back, will be asset back.
Yeah.
So you will have...
Well, that's different.
Yeah.
If there is something...
Yeah, but even though it's asset back, you actually can't convert that token for an asset, right? It's just saying it's asset back, right?
It's like saying you can't convert a share for an asset.
Yeah, that's right. So likewise, you
but
can.
There is like the future possibility of getting dividends, but you also have voting rights, things like that. That is a value conferred to that to like a stock security, but to this one, that's where I'm losing me.
I know, and that's where the world is right now. It's messy, it's disorganized, it's the Wild Wild West. People don't really know what's going on. And I just had a chat with a guy who just listed his company in China and has 15 million users. He said that we're in the big bang world right now, where when Bitcoin just started, it was an explosion into a brand new universe. And Bitcoin started as like 0.001 cent in 2009, and last 10 years had went up to $20,000. Every token and every blockchain is a bit like a galaxy in the universe, and every dApp or decentralized application is like a small ecosystem or solar system. Everyone's trying to find their way there, and people are buying into a lot of rubbish. I mean, I own 3 million tokens in this random company called Sprout. I don't even know what they do, but I thought I'd like to be a crypto millionaire. And they do something like environment, and they just got a WordPress website, say, oh, we've got a blockchain project, right? There's so much rubbish out there, there's so many uncertainty out there that people are figuring out. And that's why we need people like you looking to this a bit more deeply, contemplating about it, and finding the right projects or initiatives to back, right? The same guy said he had conversation with the professor at Harvard Business School, and he asked him, what do you think about blockchain? And he said, mate, this perplexed me because all my smartest students in class right now are working on a blockchain project. And I know one thing for sure, if where the talent is heading, there the future would be. And I've been to 20 cities across the world, and I've met the smartest people in the world doing different things, and they decided to look into blockchain because they've seen how transformative this technology would be. And that's why I'm losing my voice talking about it, but I'm so passionate about it because it's worth it. In fact, today is actually my birthday, and I still decide to come in and spend time with you guys, and it's fun. Thank you. Yeah. So I think maybe I'll share a quick life principle as well, something that I've been reflecting. So I was mentoring a group of students at Year Up. They take students between 18 to 24, and they couldn't get education, and they put them to a technical skills track. And they asked me, like, what was my one advice for them? And I say that in life right now, be it meeting people or learning things, when you're a student, right, do 100 things one time. So try out everything in the world and experience life, obviously within legal means. And then after that, when you've decided, do 10 things 10 times. You do things and focus on it, and just as how Ben, Will, and Talita is focused on blockchain and running the club. And then once you find your real sort of calling or competency, you just do that one thing 100 times. Just do it so well that it grows to the next level. So now I'm 30 years old, I'm very thankful to be in the list, and I'm just now focused on communicating and speaking to you about blockchain, or communicating a certain way of understanding things. So I hope your level of understanding has increased in one way or another. But the idea is to find what you are truly passionate about, and just do it 100 times or 10,000 times, and then get somewhere where you can actually leave a legacy in the world and do something different. Like I say, we are in this new age of capitalism which is evolving, and we're in a world where in the Big Bang Theory things are exploding, right? One of a multi-millionaire told me, he said that, Jason, you're in a very unique world right now. When I listed my company, it took me years. You can list your company within a very short span of time because of this thing called the financial velocity. The velocity is a combination of speed and momentum which makes things grow so fast, where you can have a product that goes to market within months and have 1 million users. That would have been unheard of 20 years ago. So we're in a very unique space right now where you can create products and services that could go to the next level within a matter of months. So do think about it. Do think about what this is. Yeah. All right, question. Continue.
Sorry, this is going to be really stupid. But what exactly is a token? Is that like a share of something, but not crypto equity?
Okay. I'd like someone else to answer that. Who would like to answer that?
It depends on the representation that you give to it. Right? For example, Bitcoin, the token represents the actual currency. But you can map a token to an asset. And the example that you gave, for me, it's like a share, right?
Yeah.
They would, Steve Jobs would somehow launch an IPO using a token, which would be easier and somehow, and it's a sort of a digital share, right?
Yeah.
But it needs to be recognized by a contractual agreement in order to correspond to a physical entity in the real world.
But what I'm getting is, like, when you call it a share, like the way that you describe the token, with the share you own a portion of something. With the token, you don't own anything.
Yeah.
You believe in the value of that, but you don't actually own a portion of. Like if I bought a token of NEM, I don't own a portion of NEM. If I buy a share of Facebook, I own a share, like portion of Facebook.
Yeah.
So
I know it's unbelievable, it's unthinkable, right? But people are buying Bitcoin. Why? I have no idea what people are doing. But people are doing it because they see a value in it. It becomes a form of a store of value, right? So think of it like a collectible, like buying stamps, buying shoes, buying paintings. Human beings have this innate nature to hoard and to collect things. And if they like, sorry.
But Bitcoin, you can still use it, right? You can use it to buy stuff. Like,
Yeah.
And value it. But if you're just buying a token just purely for the sake of a token, let's say Steve Jobs, you can't use it for anything unless other people share the same belief.
Value is subjective. So one day, right? I wouldn't be surprised. Someone said, "I'll change your Steve Jobs token for my house," because some people are so crazy. They find so much value in that token that they'll do it. And people have paid crazy things for work of art, for sculptures. But I was in Christie's and I see the kind of things that people buy for. It's crazy. Yeah.
So I'll just hop in.
Yeah.
So there's two types of tokens that you just talked about today, right? One is the security and one is the utility. So there's a difference between how you perceive both of them. And the utility token, for example, it's like Chuck E. Cheese. Do you know Chuck E. Cheese? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so the US Federal Reserve and US cash, let's say that's negative, right? So instead of giving you a US dollar, I would give you one NEM, right? But then let's say we take all of our NEMs and we go to Chuck E. Cheese, right? And Chuck E. Cheese says, oh, well, you can't use NEMs to play our games. You have to use Chuck E. Cheese tokens to play our games. But you can exchange Chuck E. Cheese tokens. I'll give you 5 Chuck E. Cheese tokens for 1 NEM, right? And so when I exchange and I get that Chuck E. Cheese token, that's a utility token because I'm actually going to use it to play Chuck E. Cheese games. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, so that's a, yeah.
But what does Chuck E. Cheese then get in having the NEMs? Because they then have to somehow get revenue or something like that to recognize playing the game.
So I guess that's what's really up for dispute right now, because the question ultimately is like, why the heck are you doing this and making me go an extra step to play your games? Why can't I just use US dollars to play your games, or NEM to play your games, right? And I think that's really what's up for debate right now, and I don't think anyone really has a very clear answer for it. At the end of the day, I think one of the biggest reasons why tokens have become so widespread is because tokens are used to raise money for an ICO. Do you guys know what an ICO is?
Yes.
Yeah, basically, initial coin offering. And so without the token, you can't really have that coin offering, and you can't get that initial injection of funds into your company. But it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because although you get to raise, like, I don't know, $10 million for an idea or something, on the other hand, you are adding that extra step which impairs user experience, which ultimately isn't really that necessary. I think in the past there's been arguments about like, oh, I want to create my own currency or my own token so that I can control the value of it, but obviously that's not true, because everything is really pegged to Bitcoin, right? When Bitcoin falls, everything falls. So that's not really a sound argument, but I think that's one of the primary reasons why people claim they want to create tokens, but ultimately I think it all goes back to, we need to create a token so that we can launch an ICO.
I'm not sure if I'm understanding it correctly, but I thought the whole point of making like new tokens and having this inefficiency of like multiple steps is to decentralize. Because if we keep using US dollars, we're just giving power to the government, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
But by having those multiple steps that we do peer-to-peer.
So what I'll say is that we're in the super early days. It's akin to like humans were so used to walking, and now you've got to invention the wheel. Like fast forward a few thousand years now, we're going towards driverless cars. So right now the invention of the wheel is like the invention of tokens. People are still figuring what to do with it. Governments still don't know what to do. In fact, there are 11 countries in the world that said, I'm so scared I'm going to ban Bitcoin. So Afghanistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, you can't even do anything. You could go to jail for trading Bitcoin, right? So we're in such an early stage right now where we are in need for leaders to take charge and say, hey, I'm going to bring this to the next level and see where we can make use of this and actually build efficiencies in the system and so on. So by no means NEM is a perfect blockchain, right? We are starting up as well. But the fact is that we want to continue working with companies who want to start looking into this to see what we can do to help them make more money, save more money, create more efficient processes for what they do, and actually help, bring the world to the next level itself, and that's what we're going to do. So I know I don't have much time now, so what I'll do is I'll end it here, and we'll have conversations offline. And this is my email address, and you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, just search Jason Lee NEM, or you can follow me on the social side. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well. But the idea is that I do want to connect with you, and I do want to connect you to people as well. Now, the NEM leadership team has expressly told me that they would like to meet with students from MIT as well. So if any of you are interested in positions in exploring working with the NEM blockchain, or even just curious and want to know, please feel free to send me a note and say I'm interested. I can connect you to the right people. For example, I'm connecting some of the technical guys in MIT to our core developers, the people who actually built the blockchain from scratch itself. So that's the thing that I want to do. So I'm a connector. So I want to define my life as a connector that connects people together. And if you're interested in getting connected to someone, I'd be more than happy to make that connection for you. I mean, I've already invested time in you. I flew all the way from Australia and spent my birthday here. So I want to make sure that you all succeed, right? That I want to know that, hey, back in 2018, Jason, you had this talk, and it's really made me thought about certain things, and now I am 10 years later, and let's go for a drink, let's have a meal together, right? So I hope this talk was useful. Do let me know how I can help you, and I wish all of you continued success. Thank you.